With the likes of Cody Rhodes, Brian Pillman Jr., Jade Cargill, and now CM Punk making the jump from AEW to WWE, who are some other stars that WWE could have their eye on in All Elite Wrestling? Let's talk about that in today's Wrestling Ramble. Before we move on, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Rambles with notifications on, and don't forget to like the video. Before we get into the list of stars that WWE probably has their eye on from AEW to sign when they are available, we have to preface this with what WWE's looking for. If you take the four people that I've mentioned in the intro, Cody Rhodes, Brian Pillman Jr., Jade Cargill, CM Punk, more so CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, and then to a lesser extent Jade Cargill and then Brian Pillman Jr. They're looking for the total package. They're looking for a star, someone that has it all, where someone can send them a clip of what they're doing in AEW and say, we could produce that better. We've got the right minds backstage to be able to give them the platform they need to succeed. Yeah, they're a big star now. They're an up-and-comer. They're young. They can cut a good promo. They can have a good match, but we can do it just a bit better. And we could really make something out of them. And we want to see how far they can go. I really think that's what WWE's looking for. And that might become a recurring theme that we see between stars in WWE and AEW. I truly believe we're going to continue to see older ex-WWE stars go over to AEW. And that's not a bad thing. That's great. It's great that there's competition. It's great that there's another place for them to go. But now we've come to a point in time where WWE has made these recent cuts. They've made cuts since the pandemic. They made cuts after the merger. And now they can pick and choose particular stars that are on the market, whether they come from AEW or New Japan or MLW, and say, hey, we wouldn't sign the whole roster. We're not going to buy out the whole company. But there are a few stars, a handful or less, that we could say, we want them, we could do something with them, let's see what happens. And that's a problem for AEW. That's a big problem. Because as much money as Tony Khan has, as much money as he has, he doesn't have the platform that WWE is. He doesn't have the name recognition that WWE has. WWE is synonymous with pro wrestling. I've made this example before. When you cut your arm and you need something to cover it, what do you say? Oh, I want a Band-Aid. Band-Aid's a company. It's called a bandage. UFC's done the same thing with mixed martial arts to a great extent. If you're at a bar one night and you talk about, hey, did you see that MMA fight on Saturday? Oh, that UFC stuff. It's the same thing with pro wrestling. Oh, you like that WWE stuff? It's the same exact thing. AEW is always going to be number two. WWE is never going away. And what AEW is dealing with now is a WWE that has full control with the likes of Triple H, has gotten rid of the negative connotations associated with Vince McMahon and creative, and now they have the opportunity, after doing all these cuts, like I said, to pick and choose particular talent. They're not going to buy out any of these other companies. At least I wouldn't think they would do that. They will sign specific stars that they think that they can turn into WWE superstars. That's what they're looking to do. So without further ado, let's get into this and start with number one. This should be number one on everyone's list. You shouldn't be surprised to hear this name. It's MJF, the AEW World Champion. He has to be. No doubt in my mind, he is number one on WWE's list to sign up, to scoop up, to poach from AEW, however you want to word it. There's two reasons. One is the star that he is. He is, as I stated previously, what WWE is looking for, the full package. His promo ability is second to none. He might be the best in the business today. He might be one of the greatest of all time on the microphone. That's saying something. He's really good. He's young. He's athletic. Since he debuted in AEW, look up a picture of MJF, put it side by side with him today. Look at his body. I don't know what he's doing. I don't want to go into detail on it. He doesn't have to go into detail with me. We can all see it. He looks a lot better. He's in great shape, and he can have a good match. And when he's allowed to be a heel, we don't have to do a big diatribe on him as a babyface. Now they've screwed it up and have continued to have him as a babyface even though Adam Cole's injured. Let's not get into that. Let's not delve into that. Let's stick to the point. MJF is number one on WWE's list. Now, I said there were two reasons. I gave a lot of reasons for the first. Because of how he is as a performer, as a professional wrestler, he is the total package. That's reason number one. Reason number two, why he has to be number one on Triple H's list, on Nick Khan's list, on Bruce Pritchard's list, on anyone that's associated with WWE's list. He's got to be number one. The second reason is his contract is coming up, supposedly January of 2024. Now, there's a little caveat. There are reports that he has secretly or quietly, however you want to phrase it, re-signed with AEW. That remains to be seen. We don't know if that's true, but MJF has done a great job of playing up this storyline. That's great for AEW. First and foremost, it's great for AEW. Regardless of what you want to say about them mentioning WWE, they should. They are the number two. There's no point in denying it. And why not take a shot at them? What's that going to get you? Headlines. People are going to write articles. Oh, the bidding war. Will WWE sign AEW star MJF? That way you get the WWE rub for AEW. There's no reason why they shouldn't mention that. But that contract supposedly, allegedly, purportedly is coming up January 2024. And of the people that I have so far written down for AEW stars that WWE should sign, MJF is at the top of the list. He's the best. He's their biggest star. If you look hour by hour, segment by segment for AEW Dynamite ratings, in recent times, it's not as true. But if you go back a couple months, MJF segments tend to do the best on that show. People come and tune in by the droves of 50 to 100,000, sometimes even 150,000 extra fans pile on to watch AEW Dynamite because MJF is on the screen. And I think he should go. Does he have to go January 2024? Absolutely not. If he's willing to take the big money offer that Tony Khan and AEW makes, because let's be honest, they have the money to match WWE's offer. They absolutely could. What AEW doesn't have and never will have is the platform that WWE has. So MJF could take that same amount of money, work a few more house shows, work a few more dates, have a busier schedule wrestling-wise, take a little bit more toll on his body for the same money, but build his brand more than he ever could. There's no other place he could build his brand more than WWE. And that's why he has to be the number one potential signing for WWE that is currently on the AEW roster. Alright, next up on the list of AEW stars that WWE should sign, should have their eye on, should be looking out for, is absolute Ricky Starks, one half of the AEW World Tag Team Champions with Big Bill. There's not a lot of people that this specifically applies to. The term oozes charisma. Sometimes could be overused, but with Ricky Starks, it is entirely applicable. Ricky Starks oozes charisma, unlike anyone else on the AEW roster. I would say even more so than MJF. It's that style, it's that swagger, it's something about him, and he has it all. He can do everything. He's got a good look. The facial expressions are incredible. His in-ring work is great. His promos are impeccable. He is the full package. And he really lives up to his nickname, Absolute, because he is an absolute must for WWE to sign when he is available. Now, I have not been able to confirm when Ricky Starks' contract is up with AEW. Ricky did make his debut on AEW Dynamite on June 17th in 2020, and he signed either that day or the day after. Presuming they brought him in, had him have the match with Cody Rhodes, answer the TNT Open Challenge. I'm guessing they had him sign a 3-year deal, which would have been up June 17th or June 18th of 2023. So he should have already re-signed. Now, the question is, what contract did he sign after that? Did he sign another 3-year? If he did, we might not see him be a free agent till nearly June of 2026. They might have him locked down for a while. I don't know if that's the case. I can't find anything for the life of me, anything official on his contract status, but we can play the guessing game. That's all we really can do. But when it comes to the potential of Ricky Starks, this is a guy you could put through NXT like Brian Pillman Jr., how they made him Lexus King, trying to flesh out his character, establish him, see what he can do, and that's a good platform. NXT right now is averaging about, give or take, 650,000 on the low ends, sometimes even up to 800,000 on the high ends, depending on how they book it, who they bring in. And Dynamite is holding strong at that 800,000 mark, holding about 850,000 fans, sometimes getting into the 9s, but never quite getting to 1 million. So NXT wouldn't necessarily be a step down for Ricky Starks, but Starks is a guy that, shoot, I might just debut on the main roster. I might just put him on Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown. I might just say, you've got everything. We want you. It's kind of like the story that Cody Rhodes told when Vince McMahon Japan wanted to sign him. And Cody made a big deal about, hey, if I come in, it's got to be me. I'm the American Nightmare. I keep my music. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. This is my gimmick. No Stardust. And Vince was like, what do you think we're paying you for? We're not going to bring you in to change you. We want to buy you. We're buying everything that comes with it. And that was really validating for Cody. And I feel like Triple H and Nick Khan, if they sit down with Ricky Starks, it's going to be the same thing. They want to buy him. We want you to be you, and we want to enhance you. We want to give you that platform to become a star. So without a doubt in my mind, Ricky Starks has got to be on the list. Maybe you disagree with him being number 2, but he's got to be on everyone's list of AEW stars that WWE has got their eye on. You know that they've seen Ricky Starks segments. You know they've watched Ricky Starks promos. They had to have. They know about him. Not to mention, he's literally been backstage at the Royal Rumble with Cody. He's good friends with Jade Cargill. His best buddies from AEW, one of them's killing it right now. He main evented the second night of last year's WrestleMania with the biggest star in the pro wrestling business, Roman Reigns, and he's probably going to do it again for next year's WrestleMania. And Jade Cargill, they've said, hey, we know she's a star. We know we can make her a star. She's got all the potential. She's a little green. She hadn't been in the business that long, so we're not even going to rush it. Ricky is looking at those two and saying, I could fit somewhere in between there. They know what I can bring to the table, and whether I have to go to NXT or just go straight to the main roster, I'd be well off. So Ricky Starks is absolutely my number 2 for AEW stars that WWE should sign. Number 3 on this list, continuing number 1 for the second part of the list, Toni Storm. Now, there's a few interesting caveats to Toni Storm returning to WWE because her departure was messy to say the least. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of that in a second, but obviously, Toni Storm for the AEW women's division, and honestly, I would include the WWE women's division to a great extent as well. She's one of the better in-ring performers. She's one of the better wrestlers. Now, as a babyface, she's still good, still serviceable as a promo, still great in the ring, but as a heel, all that character work, the facial expressions, the promo ability, over the top, just incredible. And then, so she's turned heel in AEW, right? And then we get this timeless Toni Storm character, and now we're at another level. The only thing I think that could hold her back is the lack of a true creative department, someone to steer it in the right direction. I think it's good that she developed this. If she came up with this, good on her, because now this is where AEW comes in handy for these stars that specifically want to move on from AEW to something better, i.e. WWE. AEW is a great platform because if you know what you're doing, you can develop your own character, showcase it on national television, build it to such an extent when you go back to WWE or just debut in WWE, whatever the case may be, they're going to want to bring in that character. And the mindset won't be, hey, let's create a character together. WWE's perspective is going to be this. What can we do to enhance timeless Toni Storm? And that's the ceiling that you have in AEW, is the production value, is the lack of organization when it comes to producing matches, more specifically for the booking and the creative side of things, the character development. WWE has got that down so much more than AEW does currently. Like I said, there's pros to being in AEW. You can develop your character and then present it to WWE to the point where, hey, we know we didn't create this, but we want it. We don't just want Toni Storm, we want timeless Toni Storm. Now, leaving all of that aside, some of you are probably aware of her previous stint in WWE and maybe even know about the details of her departure. We'll get into that. As a talent, in the ring, on the microphone, her look, her character, she's got it all. If she came back to WWE, they're putting a women's title on her, one of the two. She is becoming champion on the main roster on Raw or SmackDown, no doubt in my mind. But some of you are probably shaking your heads thinking, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? Toni Storm is not going to go back. Well, let's dive a little bit into the history here before we continue on this list of stars that WWE should be having their eye on in AEW. She did an interview. This quote came out June 7th, 2022, courtesy of Inside the Ropes. She said this to Renee Paquette on the Sessions podcast, talking about her decision to leave. I had some good times in WWE. It was cool at one point, and then it wasn't. It changed, and I didn't want anything to do with it. Things changed when I went from NXT to SmackDown. SmackDown. My main goal in wrestling was to be on Raw or SmackDown, main roster, WWE TV. I got there, I figured it out pretty soon and realized this is just not gonna work. Also, I'm 26 and I want to have a really good time in this job. I want to have a really good career and I want to enjoy part of it, and I wasn't enjoying it for so long, and I abruptly quit. I didn't even intend. I woke up that morning having no idea I was gonna quit by that night. I just snapped out of the blue and all of a sudden I was on this 90 days, the non-compete clause. During that time, I wasn't expecting to have all this time off. I thought for sure I was just gonna continue working there forever. Then all of a sudden this 90 days hits me and I don't know what. I don't know if AEW would have me. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but my first thought was probably maybe I'll go back to Japan because I liked it out there. I was going back and forth for a while in my head, going, do I even want to do this anymore? Because I was so frustrated, as you can imagine. It can be frustrating. Really, it got me pretty down, and then that 90 days, it was just about figuring out what's next. Went back to Australia because I hadn't been home in 2.5 years. It was good to go back. I went back for a month and reset. Now, hold on to that. Key takeaway, she enjoyed her time on NXT, didn't enjoy her time on the main roster. Now, I want to get into the details surrounding her quitting. She said this on Talk Is Jericho, quote, courtesy of Wrestle Talk. So obviously the frustration had built at this point. It also doesn't help that everyone I know doesn't really have a good thing to say about it. WWE, also my own husband, Juice Robinson, left for the same silly old reasons. It's hard for him to keep encouraging me to keep going when he's gone through all the same stuff. It was like Christmas time and had about 5 shows, like a big loop. It was Tampa, Orlando, I think it was DC, Baltimore, and Albany. I'm ready to do this. I've booked everything. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to start work, and here we go. I'm ready to do this. Then on Christmas Eve, I get told, you're just on one of them. You're just on the Tampa one. I'm like, all right, fine, no problem, whatever. I go to the Tampa one, and I don't have a match. It's like the run around the 24/7 title thing with Dana Brooke. That's fine. Okay, cool, fine. Happens. It's Christmas time. It's busy. I get it. The next day, I get a phone call in the afternoon saying, you realize you're on the show tonight, right? No, but like, I will be there. It's in Orlando where I live, so that's okay. I'm like, well, I kind of had a feeling this would happen. I go and I wrestle Sasha and Charlotte for the title. Cool. I'm like, here we go. We're moving. She then says, then following this is that 3-day loop. I was confirmed numerous times from numerous people that you're not on it. So I'm up all night regardless, like they're gonna put me on it. I'm gonna be ready. The 6 a.m. flight is when everyone's leaving. 6 a.m. comes, nothing, and I don't hear from them. Nothing. It's all good. I get on with the day as normal. I go to the dentist at 11 o'clock. I'm laying in a chair with tubes in my mouth getting work done. My phone starts just going insane, off the hook. They need me to be on a plane in like 2 hours. How do you even say no? You can't say no because then you get heat. So you're backed into a corner. I have to do this. I actually want to do this, but it's been made extremely difficult for me at this point. Nonetheless, I'm pulled out of a chair. I raced home, grabbed my things, and got to the airport. I'm running around all day. Keep in mind, there's all this pent-up frustration that's been building and building and building for months and months and months. Then I get to the show. It's halfway through the show, Washington, D.C. We get there to do the match. I still can't put it into words. It was just the overall frustration of the lack of respect for my time and my effort. I want to give this my all. I want to give this everything I got. I want to give my whole life and my whole being. I want to give it all to you guys, but you're making it freaking difficult. I just lost it and I quit. I just told them I'm so happy I need out. And the months of frustration, she obviously had the whole pie in the face storyline. I don't think she liked that either, but they did feature her fairly prominently, putting her in title matches, programs with Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair. I think had she stuck through it, she might have become champion, or at the very least would have been a perennial contender. Now if she comes back, she's definitely going to be champion. But let's once again go back to that first quote where she said, I enjoyed my time on NXT. Main roster? No. Who runs main roster creative then? It's Vince McMahon. Who did she tell she wanted to quit? The previous head of talent relations, John Laurinaitis. Neither of them are there now. It's Triple H who's in charge of creative for the main roster, and that's who was in charge of it in NXT when she was there. It's a different world. It's the same reason why guys like Andrade are probably kicking themselves for signing with AEW, maybe even Malachi Black as well, and as soon as they get over there, Triple H is in charge. I think Toni Storm would be wise to consider making the jump. She signed a deal with AEW March of 2022. I haven't seen any word on the length of her contract. I'm presuming it's a 3-year deal, which would mean her deal should be up by March of 2025. So we've got all of 2024, and then a couple months into 2025, she can sign with WWE. She can go back. That's someone WWE's got to have their eye on. Next up, and since we've got a couple people on this portion of the list of AEW stars that WWE should sign, why not make those couple people that we're bringing up, why not have it be a couple? I'm talking about Toni Storm's husband and former WWE star and current AEW talent, Juice Robinson. Now, I know he's doing his thing, the Bang Bang Club, whatever it's called, with the Gun Boys and Jay White. I remember when Jay White came into AEW, and there was a big talk, especially from the Wrestling Observer people, saying that, oh, WWE would like to have him. I'm sure they would, but if I'm looking at that group, the little tandem of Juice and Jay specifically, I want Juice. Now, is Juice the better worker in the ring? Maybe not. I'm be willing to concede that, but I want a total package. I want everything. I want someone who's good in the ring, good on the mic, good character, good facials, good presence, and that's not Jay White to me. He seems stiff. He has one facial expression. The promos are pretty bland and at times a little monotonic. Juice Robinson's not that way. So even if he's not as good as Jay White in the ring, I don't give a damn. I want Juice Robinson back in WWE. Of course, no CJ Parker. That name stinks. And I'm sure by the time they bring him back, he's just going to be Juice Robinson. Probably send him right up to the main roster. They could put him in NXT for a bit again. I wouldn't. I think he's good enough to be on the main roster, but if you want to try to build his star up a little bit before he goes, I'm not sure. Just like I said, I'll go back to this. The character work and the facial expressions, the changing in tone of voice, he's got everything, and he's got a look. He looks grizzled. Juice Robinson looks like one of those guys that could snap at any moment and gouge your eyeballs. Jay White doesn't look like that to me. And I promise I'm really not trying to rag on Jay. It's just everyone talks about Jay White, and him going to WWE, but Juice Robinson doesn't get any love. I don't get it. Anyway, so he signed with AEW in November of 2022. Once again, presuming he signed a 3-year deal. If that's what he inked, then he should be good to go. Same year as Tony, 2025, just in November. November of 2025 is when his deal should be up. I don't know if these 3-year deals have options. I forget if Juice had any injury time on top of that, or is he currently injured? So that might factor into it as well. But that would be my other pick for an AEW star that WWE should sign. Bring back Juice Robinson. And what's a good way to do that? Sign his wife. Get Tony back. Make it a whole lot easier. Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments about the picks that I've made, and give me some picks of your own and tell me why or what you'd like to see them do in WWE. But that's all I've got. I will see y'all later.